right, so next up, so in order for all of these things to function well and to interoperate with each other, we need to have a solid network. And let's talk about that. Why is it important? How is it done? So I'm going to pitch this over to Tyler and ask him, how is managed Wi-Fi important to helping reduce operating expenses?
I mean, a lot of folks are already doing it. I know Google has been incorporating a lot of their Wi-Fi or offering it to specific areas, more specifically in Texas. Given an entire package, a Wi-Fi package to the property where the owner operator or the asset manager can go in there and say, hey, we're gonna increase, or we're gonna offer an amenity, or a Wi-Fi amenity of $30 to $40, which I've seen, and it's been widely successful. So yeah, I think it definitely brings value to it.
Other thoughts on the importance of managed Wi-Fi and how that can support an IoT network for a lot of the devices we've already talked about today, plus other ones we haven't talked about yet.
Go ahead.
I think different IoT protocols have different values, different use cases. Wi-Fi is a backbone for many things. So Wi-Fi I think is just foundational. It's how you stream your movies. It's how you work from home. That's sort of foundational no matter what it is. I think there's a number of other IoT protocols out there that have different use cases. I think you touched on several variations that you could have for smart locks. For me, I have to operate on LoRaWAN as a device. There's other types of devices that you can leverage LoRaWAN for as well. There was a company in the exhibit hall that you can check out that they're doing water metering with LoRaWAN. But there's a number of IoT protocols out there. I think you ultimately don't want to have more than you need, because the more fragmented it is, the harder it is to manage. So I think being able to make some of those strategic bets as far as, this vendor uses this and I can use it here, and here as well. The fewer things that you have to manage, the better. That's ultimately what you're trying to do.
It feels like a lot of the Opex locations we're talking about back in the metal closet, where the water pipes are historically areas you're probably not getting strong Wi-Fi or can't, for various reasons. So really, thinking through that strategy of how can we get a good, solid network across our living spaces, our utility spaces. We talked about earlier, extending that out into the parking garage. Diana, I think you had some comments as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is like kind of economy of scale when you have the same kind of internet that is all across the property. We also would do managed internet even as revenue enhancer. Maybe we can talk about it here, but I'll just talk about it now also. But that's coming a little bit more popular nowadays, where you have an operator who is managing the whole internet and then bill back to tenants. So in our current property that we'll close in a couple of weeks, essentially we'll having a contract. We have a contract with a sole internet provider, and out of our pocket as owners, it's $30 a month. $30 per unit. But then we'll bill back to the tenants as $60 a unit. So then there's a delta that we can make as the other income. But that's becoming a little bit more popular nowadays that I'm seeing.
Sure. Other thoughts on managed Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so somebody on a panel, I think it was yesterday morning, brought up about you have to have a good working Wi-Fi, right? And they talked about the hotel that we're staying at and how terrible the Wi-Fi is if you're in the back half of the building. That goes back to where my mind always goes with creating sticky customers, right? You want them to stay. And so having that managed Wi-Fi, providing a good positive experience for your customer goes a long way. And then also, I think one of the areas for improvement in our industry is continuing to future-proof the properties, right? Because there's always changes coming down the road. So you hear about Matter and Thread and just how do you make sure your buildings are structured properly so that as the new technologies launch, they can be properly